He is Chabad of Southern Ohio. So without further ado, we're honored to have with us Rabbi Shalom Ber Kalmanson, Chabad of Southern Ohio. Before he starts, I have one brief quote I want to read. This is a letter that the Rebbe sent him in 1942. He got many letters over the years, but... 5742, 1982. Thank you for correcting me on that. In the Hebrew year, 5742. So he, in addition to, he has many, many activities, but one of the things that he had for many years was a paper called Chabad Times. It was a periodical paper that would come out. And the Rebbe finishes off this letter saying, I extend prayerful wishes to the editor, that's Rabbi Kalmanson, and staff of the Chabad Times for continued and growing hatzlacha, that's success, in the publication of this popular and highly regarded periodical. May God grant that it should go from strength to strength to carry the message of Torah and mitzvahs, permeated with the light and warmth of Chabad, to an ever-growing number of readers, both near and far, for this is the true purpose of the Chabad Times of Cincinnati. Now, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, this letter was actually sent in English. It's not a translation, right, which is not as common as the Yiddish or Hebrew letters, which we have many, many volumes of those, but English is not so common, but Rabbi Kalmanson merited to receive one of those letters, like I said, in 1982. So once again, without further ado, Rabbi Kalmanson. L'chaim, l'chaim.
Nothing happens by chance. Everything is preordained. And since when he started speaking about me, he started saying that I was in 18, what did you say? So my beard shows that I am from the previous generation. Our sages tell us that there were two great scholars, rabbis of the time of the Talmud, that went and paid a visit to the Temple Mound where the Holy Temple stood. And they noticed an animal coming out from the area where the Holy Temple was. One of the two began to cry, and the other one began to laugh. So the one that was crying turned to the guy that was laughing, and he says, look, I'm crying because I just now saw physically with my own eyes the destruction of the temple in a visible face. I could see it. But why are you laughing? What's so funny here? And the other one told him, let me tell you something. Nobody ever knew in advance whether Jewish people will be coming back to Israel, because who says they're going to sin? Who says they're going to be good? Who says all these things? However, these two things came all together at once. So it says that the Almighty will destroy the temple, and then he says he will rebuild the third temple. So when I see now the destruction of the temple, I'm happy, because now I know for sure that we're going to live to see the construction, the rebuilding of the next temple. If we can analyze this a little bit in philosophical terms, one was looking at the past. The destruction of the temple, that's something that happened 2,000 years ago. It's a story of the past. The other one was looking at the future. And the future means that there's going to come another temple that's going to bring us back all to Israel. Now, what's more important to do? Look in the past or look in the future?
Look towards the future while look towards the future while honoring the past.
Well, let's use an analogy.
The past.
Let's use analogy. Did you ever notice your windshield in the front of the car? How big is it? huge. It goes from one end of the car to the other, right? How big is the mirror in the car where you want to see the back? Little, right? So basically, analytically speaking, looking to the future, in a sense, is more important and gives us direction of how to live and how to go and so on. So let us take it now down to the day that we're talking about. Everything in the world is created in a revealed fashion and also in an esoteric fashion. Revealed fashion, we see simply, you open up the book of Genesis, it says in the beginning God created heaven and earth. So that's the past. But it's a revealed fashion. The book says it, we know it, and we see it. Comes along Rashi, the commentator, who in essence, really in this point was talking esoterics. He says, why does the book begin with the words in the beginning God created heaven and earth? We know that. Well, who else created it? Number two, he says that the reason for that, in a sense, is that one day the nations of the world are going to come and call us thieves, the Jewish people, that we stole their land. If anybody in this room can tell me when in the last 2,000 years, till 1948, did any non-Jew tell the Jew that you're thieves and you stole their land? Didn't happen. In 1948, once we established the country that we see today, yeah, Goyim, non-Jewish people, are coming along and saying, you're a bunch of thieves, you stole our land. When it became their land, that's a good question. But you stole our land. So what we're saying over here is that we have to remember that when we're dealing with the esoterics of Torah, we're talking about what will happen, but will come from a concealed fashion and become in a revealed fashion. So therefore, everything in Torah we find the two things. We have the revealed Torah, which is the 5 books of Moses and the scriptures, and we have the concealed fashion of Torah, which started with the Baal Shem Tov, who is the founder of the Hasidic movement. In other words, he didn't come back to teach you a verse in the Chumash. He came to give us the esoterics of Torah, which is what Hasidic philosophy is all about. However, he did it in a very general fashion. The Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman, is the one that brought it down into understanding. That's really what Chabad means, Chochma Bina Das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. He brought it down, he concentrated it in a fashion where a person can understand not only the revealed part of Torah, which is simple because it's in the book, but also the concealed, the esoteric part of Torah, which is what Chassidism is all about. So I'm going to stop for a minute because this is a Farbrengen, this is not a speech. And I'm going to ask you if you have any questions on any subject, I don't care what it is, if you have any questions on any subject matter, I will try to reveal it and take it from there.
We're a very silent crowd. Nobody has any questions. No, I'm just kidding. You have to give them 10 seconds.
Well, I'll give them 10 seconds. I'll say l'chaim in the meantime.
There we go. L'chaim, l'chaim.
L'chaim, l'chaim.
So with a Farbrengen, it's not just a formal speech like you're saying that you get up from the podium and you speak, but we sit down together and we try to uplift each other.
And we drink.
And we drink a little bit. L'chaim.
I have a question.
Okay.
It is written in the Torah and in the Zohar that there will come a time of the last generation when all the restrictions of the concealment will be taken away.
Not at the end of time, with the coming of Mashiach.
But let's say with the last
with the coming of Mashiach.
At what point do Jews take it upon themselves to channel this wisdom to the Gentiles?
To the who, Mark?
We do it now already. It's called the 7 Noachite laws. We not only have an obligation to teach Torah to the fellow Jew, but also to go out, reach out, and even touch. If the Ma Bell thinks that she came up with this idea, but Chabad came up with it before that. Reach out and touch someone is a Chabad statement by saying, very simple, we also have to not only, as I said, encourage another Jew to fulfill another mitzvah, but to go out and encourage the non-Jewish person that he should, or she, whoever it is, should increase in acts of goodness and kindness, and fulfill the 7 Noachite laws.
But I'm talking about not only the Noah laws, but I'm talking everything.
What do you mean everything?
I'm saying to retrace our step from whence we were created.
Yeah.
Hashem created our desire to receive. At what point do Jews have the responsibility to reveal the complete wisdom to get for everyone to find the root?
From the day that we received the Torah. From the day we received the Torah, we had an obligation not only to ourselves, but to reach out to the rest of the world, encourage them to make this place a better place to live in, and hopefully this is going to be the case. By the way, while we mentioned the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman, in 1982, I was delegated by the Rebbe to make a trip to Russia. In those days, Russia was sealed. I mean, that's why the name the Iron Curtain came about. It was sealed. Nobody could go in. Nobody can go out. It wasn't so simple, especially if you want to bring in Jewish material. And the Rebbe asked that we should go there and bring machzerim, the high holiday prayer books, and regular sidurim, regular prayer books, and the mezuzahs and tefillin, and you name it, we got it. Chalofim, which is the ritual slaughtering knives, and the milah knives, everything that you can think of was in those boxes. Now, as I said, you can't bring anything into Russia. The reason that they closed everything is because they wanted to keep their people away. In the time that I was there, you couldn't find a pair of jeans in Russia. Pair of jeans, people want to, just a casual pair of jeans. You couldn't find it in Russia. Why? Because people had no idea what was going on in the West, or what was going on in free countries, and they never knew about jeans. When the doors eventually flooded open, then, jeans also started coming in. But I just want to say that when I went to Russia at the time, again, the Rebbe's wisdom, we didn't go through Moscow, although that was the only official entry. Moscow. So where did we go? We went to Finland. Finland.
Border.
Huh?
With a long border.
That's exactly it. We went to Finland, and over there you could take a ferry, which takes about 4 hours, to get to a city in the other end of Russia called Tallinn. That's the name of the city. Today, Tallinn happens to be an independent country, just like a lot of others broke off and broke away. Tallinn broke away and became a country of its own. But at that time, Tallinn was a part of the Soviet Union of Russia. So we went to Tallinn. How? We got on the plane, we flew to Finland, and we had all these boxes, and this was in the month of Av, which would be approximately August. Getting ready for Rosh Hashanah, which is usually in September, so we took along all the stuff, a shofar to sound the shofar, everything that would be needed for the coming month, and for Jews to have to be able to pray and to be able to live as Jews without any problems. Well, we slept overnight in Finland because we came there in the afternoon, and next morning we went to the pier to get on this boat, or the ferry, if you will, for the ride to Tallinn. Well, we put all the boxes on the ferry, and we're coming. Well, 4 hours later, we arrived in Finland. I mean, in Tallinn. Well, you have to go through immigration and customs. And like I said, the only way into Russia was through Moscow. This is not even an official entry place. This was a place, Tallinn was used at the time. They were building a mosque in Tallinn. The Muslims were building a mosque in Tallinn. And here is where we saw miracle number one from the Rebbe. We were nervous. I mean, what are we going to say? If we're going through customs, open the box, check it out, knives of shechita, knives of circumcision. You could tell that this is all Jewish stuff, and it's prohibited to bring in. So anyway, we were a little bit nervous, but we thought to ourselves, listen, if the Rebbe sent us, and the Rebbe knows what he's talking about, there's nothing to be afraid. Which, by the way, Rebbe, the words Rebbe, which means in English translation, if I could do so, is rabbi, right? Rabbi means teacher. But Rebbe doesn't mean that. The Rebbe is an acronym for 3 words. Rosh, B'nai, Yisrael, the head of the Jewish people. So you just had Rosh Hashanah, we spoke about. Then you're going to have Rosh Hashanah of Tu B'Shvat, which we also mentioned already before. And now you have Rosh Hashanah of Chassidism, which we're talking about today. So what means Rosh? Why is it not called like in any other language? In English, let's say, what do we call January 1? The beginning of a new year? Nobody calls it the head of the year. Why do we refer to Rosh Hashanah as the head? And the answer is,
It's a time when we stick our own Rosh into the spiritual ether above and begin to feel a new sensation of reality.
when was the last time you saw a person sticking his head anywhere?
Through thought and action.
Huh?
Through thought and...
Well, that's not your head. I've seen people without legs. I've seen people without
I'm
hands.
speaking in the
I've never seen a person walking in the street without a head.
I'm speaking in the metaphorical, spiritual, figurative
I
sense.
understand what you're speaking
But what
of.
I'm saying is, when I went up to Hillary Clinton in Des Moines, Iowa,
She didn't have a head, you're right.
I gave her, I gave
Oh, you
her,
gave her a head.
I gave her what I call a Hillary hay.
Okay.
And I said, basically, the hay consists of actually 2 letters. You have the Yud and you have the Vav. We lower our Yud to a point.
You
and
mean
we-
the Daled and the Vav.
Yud,
The Daled and a Vav.
in any case, we lower our egoism to a point, and then we follow the pattern of the upper one as a pattern, as the same way as we follow our parents.
But that's still not a head. Your parents are not your head. They're your parents, they're nice people, they
Again,
raised you.
I'm speaking
Why do we call it a head?
Oh. What's the difference between any limb of the human body and the head? Like I said a minute ago, if you live without hands, God forbid, you're still living and you're healthy. You're obviously handicapped, but you're okay, you're there. If you're missing a leg, same story, on and on and on. However, like I said before, you cannot go without a head. Without a head, it doesn't work. So when I was there, we also paid a visit in Leningrad, which at that time was considered, at the time of Rabbi Shneur Zalman, was considered the capital of Russia. Today it's Moscow. In those days, Leningrad was considered the capital of Russia. In this capital, there is a river that flows right in the middle. Right in the middle. Anybody that knows Leningrad knows there's a river that flows right in the middle of the city. On the other side of this little river is a little island. On this island is where the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneir Zalman, was incarcerated. They incarcerated him, they took him to this island, this way he can't escape, and that's the end of it. And they put him in to a room that has no windows whatsoever. Being in the room, you wouldn't know the difference between day and night, morning or evening, you would know nothing.
Okay.
And he was put into to one of those, let's call it cages. One day, a minister walked in because there was debates. People said, as you heard earlier, that he wanted to throw over the government. And other people said that this is nothing more than just trying to chepazach, so to speak, to pick on Jews. But he's a great scholar. So one of the big ministers decided that he wanted to check it himself. He doesn't want to hear what this guy says, what that guy says. He wanted to check it himself. So what did he do? He went to visit him in this little dungeon, if you will, a room without lights and without, you couldn't see nothing. The minute that minister walked into the room, Rabbi Shneir Zalman stood up, and accorded him the proper respect that you should to a minister. This guy was flipping out. It's a dark room. You don't know who I am. You don't know why I came. What did you jump up for? And he said to him, you should know that nothing happens over here below that is not attached to something above. Every minister has a angel, if you want to call it, that is in the loftier worlds up on high. When you walked in, I felt that, and I therefore knew that somebody great had just walked into the room. I didn't need the light, I didn't need the dark, I didn't need any of it, but I realized that right then and there. So the minister said, look, I want to ask you a question. In the beginning of Genesis, the Torah says that God calls upon Adam, and he says, Ayeka, where are you? And he says, what do you mean, where are you? God created the world, God created the place. What are you asking him where he is? You don't know where he is? So the Rebbe says that the commentary basically says that he didn't want to just jump up on him. He rather wanted to start up a conversation with an introduction. So the minister said, look, what Rashi says I also know. I want to hear what you have to say. So the Rebbe looked at him in the dark room and said to him, let me tell you something. And he called him by name. He actually called the minister by his name. And he said, you are now 52 years old, or whatever the age was, and God is asking of every Jew, Ayeka, where are you? What have you achieved? What have you done for you in the 52 years that you're alive? What have you done to make the world a better place to live in? That guy flipped out, and he was one of the strongest advocates to see that the Alter Rebbe, that Rabbi Shneir Zalman, should be freed from this imprisonment. So like I said, it was an island, and while I was in Russia, I decided to go to that island and check it out, and also see the room where Rabbi Shneir Zalman was incarcerated. When Rabbi Shneir Zalman was incarcerated, he tells the story himself, and you heard it earlier here tonight, that he was visited by the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of General Chassidus, and by his teacher, the Maggid, the preacher of the city of Mezrich. So in other words, two people visited him. So I wanted to see, is that room big enough that three people can be in there? It was a little loch. Is the room big enough that three people can fit in there?
Thank you.
And the answer is no. So how did you get three people in a room?
Carefully.
Huh?
Carefully.
Carefully is right.
That was my grandfather.
But the way they did it, the way they came into the room, is because the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman, said that every human being can control himself and do things that in normal cases, in normal situations, looks like it's impossible. And the fact is that nothing is impossible. If you want to, you can achieve it. And therefore, he said that knowing that he was getting such great guests as visitors, and asking whether he should continue to spread the teachings or not, he managed to control the situation in the room that three people were able to fit in there. So what I would really like to, before I say again L'chaim, what I would like to say is everyone here, everyone everywhere, every person can control his life in a good and better way and help make the world a better place to live in. So I think that one of the things that we have to do, and a Farbrengen, as I said earlier and as mentioned earlier, is not a speech. A Farbrengen means we gather together and we talk together and we want to see how to better ourselves and how to better the world around us. So really we should want to go away from this event tonight in a way that we are basically making the decision that we want to better ourselves and the world around us. So before everybody leaves, it would be nice to have a resolution made by each individual to see in his own mind, what can I do to make tomorrow and the future better than today? And I would like to just throw out a couple of issues. A woman who lights Shabbos candles, but periodically, not regularly. She could make a resolution tonight that she's going to light every Friday night and every Yom Tov. A man who maybe doesn't put on tefillin at all, or puts on tefillin periodically, can also make a resolution that he's going to put on tefillin every day. And don't think that it's a hard job. Tefillin putting on doesn't mean that you have to stand and do the entire service with the tefillin. You could put on the tefillin and say the Shema, which is, Hear, O Israel, just the first portion. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is one, the Lord is our God, God is one. And Baruch Shem, which is the next line, and you can take off your tefillin. So I think that only takes about a minute, or maybe even less. So everybody, in every which way possible, can make a resolution here today, and should make a resolution today, so that the day doesn't go by wayside, but is actually fulfilling the wishes of Torah, the wishes of the Jewish people, and make this world a better place.
Do you see a time when all Jews will become one, under one roof, so to speak?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
How are we going to achieve that?
Just 1 second, huh?
How do we achieve that?
That's going to be one of the miracles of Mashiach. You know the old expression, 2 Jews, 6 opinions. But the miracle will be that when Mashiach shows up, all the Jews are going to unite, no matter where, and go to Israel. Now, Israel doesn't mean physically the land of Israel. By the way, just for clarification's sake. When it says that God chased Adam out of paradise, where did he chase him out from? Garden of Eden. Where is that?
Israel.
Israel. He chased him out of the borders of Israel. Israel was considered the paradise, and he basically chased them out from there. Now, ever since, obviously, as Jewish people, we're striving to get back there. Now, we were there temporarily here and there, and 2,000 years ago, and then again with the Second Temple, we were there. So it's a question of how do we get there now. So what does the Torah tell us? The Torah says, "Va'eso eschem al kanfei nishorim." I am going to bring you back to Israel on the wings of an eagle. Did you ever see an eagle that can handle so many people? There were 13 million Jews? No, right? So everything is timely in Torah. Do you know what a 747 is called today? Huh?
An eagle?
An eagle. An eagle. Especially the wide body. So yeah, he can put all the Jews in several 747s and bring them back to Israel. So everything is accounted for. Nothing is flying just in midair.
So I have an existential question for you too.
Go right ahead.
How do you define, or how is a Jewish community defined? What makes a Jewish community?
Two Jews.
Two Jews,
That's it.
just standing together.
They don't even have to stand together. Two Jews in the community, you have a community of two Jews. Obviously, you want to develop it and get it and make it bigger and reach out to others, and before long have a community of thousands. But a community starts with two people.
Do they have to be doing anything?
Yeah,
Is there-
I
No.
was just gonna ask that.
No,
Do they have to be doing
no,
anything?
no. They just have to breathe.
Oh, interesting.
Because if you think for a second, again, a Jew alone can't achieve anything. Take a look at Abraham. Abraham had his circumcision. He was 100 years old at the time. And he was sitting to recuperate from the circumcision. So he's sitting now, but Abraham as a human being was a person that constantly wanted to help people and do good to others. But being now that he's sitting over here and he's recovering, where is he going to go do good? So he's sitting, but where is he sitting? By the door of his tent, where he can see all four sides. In other words, there were doors, or openings, should I say, on all four sides of the tent. And he was sitting in a way that he could see everything from the east to the west to the south to the north. He should be able to see everything, because this way he may see a person coming, and boom. But what did God do? It says in our sages that God took the sun out of its sheath, out of its protection thing, and it became so hot that nobody was going. God didn't want to put him under stress. But when God saw the agony that Abraham was going through because nobody was coming in and out, so he sent them the three angels. But they looked like human beings. So he thought they were Arabs. They're human beings. And what does it say? He ran into the tent, told Sarah that there are some guests here, and let's go ahead and give them food. Right?
And wash their feet.
And well, that came first. First thing, the difference between him and Noach was that he had them wash the feet first. Noach took them in to the house first, not Noach, Lot, took them into the house first and then told them to wash their feet. Now, why did he tell them to wash the feet? Because many people were worshiping the dust of the earth. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry had another god somewhere. So that's why he did that. But what does it say? He prepared food for them, and vayoichelu, they ate. Did you ever see an angel eating?
I never saw an angel not eat.
So look at me, I'm an angel. So the commentary answers, Rashi, the major commentary of Torah, answers, not that they really ate, nidme lo ke'ochlin. They made it look as if they're eating. So this is another aspect of life that we have to remember, that sometimes we do things in an open way, as I said before, and sometimes we have to give the appearance that we're doing it.
So, sorry for this question, it might be a long one, but as someone who suffers from mental health issues, how in a world where every day as Jews we're supposed to be creating beauty and glory and a city of Lubavitch, this beautiful world, how on days when God doesn't allow you to think like that, you maintain that beauty and that.
Well, you have to remember that God does not expect from us anything beyond our ability. So if God inflicted someone with whatever it may be, and during that time he can't do it, from a halachic standpoint, from the legal standpoint of Torah, he is freed. He doesn't have to. Let me give you a crazy example, but this is really crazy. What happens if a person ends up having to run to the washroom every few minutes? Because he has an upset stomach, and literally every few minutes. You can't go to the washroom with your tefillin, right? So what's the story?
Can't wear tefillin, more or less.
He could.
Or he'd have to put it on and off.
Exactly. So you have a little bit more work to do. Take it off, take it on, put it on, take it off. But, a person can't stop and block himself from going to the washroom. You gotta go, as they say.
Yeah.
That's it. So God does not demand from anybody to do something that is beyond his ability at that moment. So if a person has a mental health, who gave it to him?
God.
Huh?
God.
So if God gave it to them, God is not expecting that he should do something that is beyond his ability at that moment.
Interesting. Thank you.
My pleasure.
We'll do a niggin. In a Farbrengen, we like to do a Hasidic niggin, and this niggin that we're going to play, it's actually from chapter 55 of the book of Psalms of King David, and it says that when the author of the Tanya, Rabbi Schneur Zalman, who we call the Alter Rebbe, who was sitting in prison, he would say a lot of Tehillim, a lot of chapters of Psalms, and it says that he was reading this chapter, and while he was reading this chapter, and the words are, Pada b'shalom nafshi, my soul was redeemed peacefully, that's when he got the news that he was being redeemed from prison. So it's a beautiful Hasidic melody, and we're going to play it in the background while everyone continues to enjoy themselves.
When the doors of Russia opened up and Jews were beginning to come out, Chabad, at least in Cincinnati, undertook a mission to make sure that these people are all going to be circumcised, because in Russia they couldn't. So I circumcised people anywhere from obviously little kids to 50-something years old. And one day, a new Russian fella came out, he was about 55, almost 60 years old, and I convinced him that he should do a bris, a circumcision. So we went to it. In a case like this, you can't just do it everywhere, so we had to do it in the hospital. So we took him to the hospital, and I took a minyan with me, 10 people, a quorum, and we did a bris. But it had to be under the guidance of a doctor. So a doctor was in the room watching the whole procedure, and then he said to me, by the way, I want to tell you something. You guys are beyond the belief in how accurate you guys do a bris. I couldn't have done it so good. Then he says to me, I want to tell you something even more interesting. Whoever figured out that a bris has to be at 8 days was a genius. Why? Because till 8 days, the clotting factor is not there, so the kid will bleed to death. After 8 days, the pain sets in, so he would go around in agony. So when the one that set it up for 8 days was so smart that it was unbelievable, because this is the time that's neither pain nor this, and the kid can go on. And I said, you know something, you're right. God himself is the one that decided it, and therefore he knew exactly which day to do it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Any other questions?
From that side of the table,
What?
from that end of the table.
Anyone?
I'm just curious on, so you had a lot of interactions with the Rebbe, and I was just wondering what was one of the most memorable. Interactions.
Everyone is memorable.
Okay, which one? Okay, can you share one of the ones that you feel is appropriate for the time?
Well, you heard he had just read a letter that came to us. As a result, I started a paper, and it was something new. Nobody ever did it before. It was called the Chabad Times, and as a matter of fact, in the masthead looked like the New York Times lettering, and we had a lot of decent reaction to that from the community in general. I was actually distributing 50,000 copies.
Wow.
You know what that means?
A lot of paper.
There's no 50,000 Jews in Cincinnati. So when I came to the 50th issue, the Jubilee issue, I started asking from politicians, notable people, that they should, send in a greeting or something for it. And then I informed the Rebbe that that's what I did. I didn't ask for anything. I just informed them that that's what I did. And finished. I didn't think anything special was going to happen. I didn't intend for anything special to happen. However, on the day of the Jubilee issue, comes a letter, a 2.5-page letter from the Rebbe, which he read just like one paragraph of, but a 2.5-page letter from the Rebbe congratulating the concept of the 50th, and I didn't ask him. Congratulating the concept of the 50th issue, the Jubilee issue, and obviously saying that the Chabad Times is highly regarded and popular, and that it's for near and far, and just to continue to spread Judaism all over the globe with it, and that's the purpose of the Chabad Times. So to me, that was pretty special.
Did you have any private audiences
Oh
over the
yeah,
years?
oh yes. Well, over time, the Rebbe got overwhelmed with people trying to go in, to be with a private audience with the Rebbe. Why am I saying this? Because there were times that he would arrive to 7:70 in the morning and wouldn't leave till the next afternoon. Not leave. Now he doesn't have any food. He doesn't have. He's in a room that's a 4x4. So it's a small little room. But the Rebbe basically covered the entire world, as you can see. From that little room, from that little spot, the Rebbe had everything on hand, to the extent of, let me tell you something. I'm sure all of you know who General Sharon is. Yeah? General Sharon at one point had to come to the United States to go to Washington, but he came to New York first. And he said if he's here, he sees so much and hears so much from the Rebbe that he would like to go in for a private audience. What really pushed him was he lost a kid. Sharon lost a kid during the between the 67 and 73, what was called the Milchemes HaTosha. Anyway, he lost a kid, little kid, and he could never console himself. Out of the clear blue, the Rebbe sent him a letter of condolence. Out of the clear blue. They didn't know each other, they didn't speak to each other, nothing. Out of the clear blue, he received a letter from the Rebbe, a condolence letter. So now that he's coming to New York, he really wanted to meet with the Rebbe in person, and first of all, thank him for the letter, and second of all, really get a little feel and a handle on him. So he went into the Rebbe in a private audience. He was there for 4 hours, which is, it was impossible. Nobody was there for no 4 hours. But what happened? The Rebbe told him all the mistakes that the Israeli army did during the 6-day war. And the Rebbe told him that over here you should have done this, and over there you should have done this. And the Rebbe was describing areas that they were making the mistakes without ever being in Israel. The Rebbe said there was a little hill, and everything the Rebbe gave him as if he was there. And when he walked out after the 4 hours, the young students of the yeshiva were obviously waiting. They wanted to see what's coming off here. And when he came out, he pulled out a handkerchief out of his back pocket and went like this and said, "Phew, I thought I knew strategy." So I think that's something that you might want to know.
There's many.
Also, by the way, before the Yom Kippur War, again, unsolicited, and nobody knew that there is a Yom Kippur War or not, the Rebbe sent him a letter. Again, this was a call. The Rebbe's secretary called Sharon and told him that if you want to succeed in winning the war, you have to cross the canal by making a pontoon bridge over the canal, cross the canal, encircle the Third Army, and they'll give up. They'll pick up the white flags. Again, he said, he's sitting over there in New York, and he's telling me cross the pontoon. But the bottom line is, he already had experience, that the Rebbe knows what he's talking about. So he later wrote more than one time that it was only thanks to this advice of the Rebbe that Israel won the Yom Kippur War.
There was many Israeli generals and politicians over the years.
Oh, they used to come regularly.
That would visit with the Rebbe.
Chaim. They came regularly. Actually, Shazar, when he was already president, one time also had to be in Washington to meet with the president. But he said to himself, by the way, Shazar comes from a Chabad Lubavitcher family. You know what his real name is? His name is not Shazar. Shazar is an acronym. Shnei Zalman Rubashov. He comes from Lubavitch. Shnei Zalman Rubashov. So he said that he would, if he's coming in and the plane lands anyway in Kennedy, he's going to try to make himself a moment to go. And there are famous pictures of the Rebbe and him coming out, the Rebbe walking him, escorting him back to his limousine to go. But he said that the whole trip to the United States was not to go to the president, as he ended up going, because he had no choice, that was a political move, but for going to see the Rebbe.
I think he's the only president that visited the Rebbe while they were president.
Well, Rabin also visited, but he was after that. Or before.
Right.
Is this the same one, Manny, that you got the dollar from, the same gentleman?
Yeah.
What?
This is the same Rebbe that I got $1 from.
That's correct.
And in fact, like I may have shared with you guys, in addition to getting $1, I'm not sure if even Rabbi Kalmanson merited to get this, but I got from the Rebbe a $5 bill, and everybody knows why, because the Rebbe had
Ran out of ones.
vision that in many years from now, I am going to be in the city of the person whose face is on the $5 bill. Anybody knows whose face on? Yeah. That's right.
That's a good one, yeah.
Abraham Lincoln's on the $5 bill, and the Rebbe knew that he was going to be sending me about 30 years later, or 20, whatever, some years later.
Listen, he was Jewish. His name was Avraham Lincoln.
I have a picture of it. It wasn't on a Sunday.
You don't have a video? Didn't they do a video?
I never got the video of me going. I have pictures of it, but not.
You can still get it.
Yeah, it's not.
The archive.
If it's around, then I can maybe get
So,
it.
how do you explain the Rebbe's insights from such distance, and do you think what do you think that is?
What do I think that is?
Mystical aspect of his abilities.
How did Moses know what was going to happen later on?
Well, Moses, later on,
Yeah, Moses.
a student of behavior perhaps,
No.
or God maybe's communications.
Aha! There is such thing as prophets, and in every generation there's a prophet. And I stand firmly to say that in this generation he was the prophet.
Okay. Prophets aren't always listened to.
Huh?
Prophets aren't always listened
Well,
to.
that's a Jewish problem. not
It's a
the
human problem.
not the prophet's problem.
I'd seen a story from Curtis Slewa, who's the founder of the Guardian Angels.
He went to see the Rebbe too.
He went to see the Rebbe and got a bill.
Right.
And he said he was out one night helping out, and somebody assaulted him. I can't remember if they tried to stab him or they tried to shoot him.
Stab him.
And it happened to be in his wallet. And the knife wound went all the way through his wallet, but stopped right at the
By
dollar
the-
the
by
Rebbe
the
gave him.
dollar,
And he
right.
said he credited that with saving his
Right.
life.
But he credited the Rebbe.
Yes.
And he
Said
was
the leader of the Hell's Angels? Who?
Curtis Slewa, no, Guardian Angels.
So,
he
Selma,
definitely was not Jewish.
Selma has a question. I want.
But he had a lot of respect for the Rebbe. You
Yes.
could see it.
100%.
I just can't roll by him that I think we're so honored to have such a renowned rabbi come to Springfield for this occasion, on such a momentous occasion, and to thank Sarah for such a wonderful meal. And Mendy for having this for us all, and how grateful that we all are to be gathered here together in Springfield. It's just like a dream, and I tell you that this was, Sarah worked so hard, and Mendy to put this together.
Say that this time Yossi really.
And I was just gonna thank Yossi for helping out
Yes.
so much, and even Gershon is trying so hard and helping out. Your kids.
Shayna said, "What about me?"
I mentioned you, I said Mendy for bringing this
started
all
with you.
together.
Oh. Shayna is asking, what about her?
Oh, and bringing everybody here.
Thank you, Selma. That's so beautiful. I really appreciate that.
That we're all gathered in Springfield like this, and it's really, I never believed that could happen, so it is really an amazing.
You see, you could become a believer here.
We're all gathered here.
L'chaim, Nechama. Thank you.
And with this new big building we have,
L'chaim.
it'll be much bigger.
Yes, indeed.
So,
TV short, I saw a short of Menachem Begin, and he said that he had met the Rebbe many times.
Right.
And that they were, I guess they were long
What?
associates. So I was just interested in what their relationship was.
do you know the relationship of the Rebbe Menachem Begin?
Well, everybody knows it. You know that for years, Begin lived in a basement in Tel Aviv. Many years. Before he got into the politics. And even after he got into the politics and was no longer prime minister, he went back to Tel Aviv to the basement. The only one that got him out of the basement was the Rebbe. And a similar thing happened with Eli Wiesel. sure you all know who Eli Wiesel was. Eli Wiesel was obviously the noisemaker about the Holocaust. Make sure that people don't forget, make sure that everybody knows, and so on. And but he never got married at that time. One time, he had a particular problem, so he decided to go to the Rebbe and discuss it. During that time, the Rebbe asked him, "Why are you not getting married?" And he told the Rebbe that he went through the whole Holocaust. He went through the whole Holocaust, and his entire family, brothers, fathers, uncles, and everybody was killed, and he's the only one that survived. But he's not interested in getting married, and what happens if another Holocaust is going to happen? So the Rebbe convinced him that he should get married. As a matter of fact, he married a woman from France, and at the day of the wedding, by the chuppah, came a gift from the Rebbe, a bouquet of flowers for him.
If I'm not mistaken, they went by the Rebbe. Was that with him or Eli Wiesel?
And
No kids?
huh?
I thought that he'll have kids. Is that him?
That could be.
I'm pretty sure it was him. I might be getting confused with someone else. I'm almost. Does Eli Wiesel have any children? He does, right?
Yeah.
And he got it at a very late age, correct?
Right.
So there's a video of him going by the Rebbe, by Sunday dollars, and the Rebbe giving them a blessing to have children. And you like see in the video, like he's so surprised because they were both of a little bit of an older age to have children. But I think it was just a year later, after that blessing, that
9 months later.
9 months later, that they had a child. So with Eli Wiesel.